friends. Welcome to today's IG Live Ask the Experts. I'm so excited about today. We just had a podcast recording on Let's Talk Love, and we're talking all about dating and love and relationships. One of my favorite things to talk about, absolutely. And today we're going to be joined by Krafchick and Yue Xu. They are the authors of their new book called How to Be Dateable. I enjoyed reading their book this week so much. It's fantastic. And their podcast is called Dateable. It's so awesome. They are the authors of How to Be Dateable, the essential guide to finding your person and falling in love. And like I said, co-hosts of the hit podcast Dateable, which has been named one of the top podcasts about modern dating and relationships by the New York Times, Huffington Post, and Oprah Daily. And today we have half an hour with these two wonderful women. I love this. We just had the best conversation about their book and about dating. And today you have 30 minutes with these two amazing people to ask about dating and relationships and all of it. And so I hope those of you that are joining, and if you're on your dating journey, please join the chat and ask your questions. I'm going to invite them both to join. Hopefully that worked. There's Julie.
Oh,
Yay.
one of two.
Okay, I'm going to see if we can join UA now. This is all good. This is good.
The trifecta. Here we are.
Julie, where are you joining us from?
I'm in San Francisco.
You're both in San Francisco, right?
So Yue actually started in San Francisco, but she's in LA now.
Oh, now
So
she's in LA.
we're in a long distance relationship now.
This that I'm asking her to join.
Hi, Heather. I see her in the chat. Hi, friends. Love it.
I'm pressing accept. I don't know if it's working. Oh, it says not able to join. There it is.
It
There
is.
we go. Hi,
Hello.
Yue. Can everybody hear us? Julie, are you good?
Is Julie on?
She was a minute ago.
I saw her. Yeah.
Now she's
Huh.
frozen. I know we've done this before where we've had
Mm-hmm.
three on the
There we
podcast.
I'm
go.
back.
Oh, there we go, Julie. We're
Oh
good.
my goodness. We did it.
Way to go. Thank you
Oh,
so much, both you and Julie, for joining us today and answering all of our questions on IG Live.
thank you for having us, Robin. We're excited to be here with
It's one of my
you.
favorite things because people that are in our community get to ask their dating questions live, and I think that's just such a powerful thing. Like just getting your questions answered. It's just like by the experts. This is so great. Okay, so I want to dive in because it goes by so fast.
Let's do it.
Ready? Okay. What is the difference between chemistry and compatibility? And how much weight should I give to each?
Hmm. I feel like chemistry is the energy and compatibility is the reality. Sometimes we live only in the energy and sometimes we only live in the reality. There needs to be a nice combination of both. But I do find that many people mistaken chemistry for compatibility. You could have great sparks with all kinds of different people. Doesn't mean that they're great for you as a partner. So if
Yeah.
that's your intention, is to just find great chemistry with people, have like a hot one night, go for it. But if we're looking for long-term partnership, chemistry can almost be deprioritized because attraction, chemistry can build over time as both people's energy converge together. But that compatibility and understanding long-term compatibility with a partner isn't built over time, isn't built right away either. So it's much better to look at the reality versus the energy.
I think the other piece too is like, how are we measuring compatibility? Because compatibility is clearly very important of like how we mesh. But we see a lot of times people are like, oh, we have similar interests and similar hobbies. And a lot of that just happens to be like happenstance, right? Like, oh, they like tennis. I like tennis. We were both raised on the East Coast. That's cool. It could be a fun thing you do in a partnership, but it's not necessarily a measure of how you will be in partnership. And I think that's a big thing to think about when we think of compatibility. What is actually the part of how we're intertwined in our lives versus what we're doing? Personally, I'd rather have someone that supports my interests than be a carbon copy having all the same interests.
I think that's just so well said. Um, I think we have to have chemistry and compatibility, and it's not all about like fireworks and sparks. But in the compatibility, you're not going to know until you spend time and time and time with somebody, getting to know them and seeing can your lives actually come together? Can they mesh? Right? Beautiful. What's the best way to communicate that I'm dating with long-term intentions? Is breaking up my relationship goals early on okay, or should I wait? We talked about this on the podcast.
Tell them early, share early and often.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's kind of like, why hide that? If this is something that you want, why not make it known? I think so many of us ask this question because we're afraid to scare away people. Is this too soon? Is this too much? You're never too much for the right person. The right person welcomes this conversation, but the wrong person, yeah, it's probably going to scare them away. And thank goodness, scare them away. Bye.
Yeah. And so can you tell us I mean, Jewel, you're engaged, you're getting married soon.
Yes.
And Yue, so how did you both with your partners now, how did you communicate what you wanted out of dating when you first met?
Yeah. I'm trying to go back in time. I love it. I mean, I definitely like chose I met my partner on Hinge. So what's nice about dating apps is they give you the opportunity to choose like, do I want a long-term
Mm,
relationship or casual? Of course, you still need to like assess people's actions and what they do with that after, but it was an easy way for me to give that and then look to see if someone was remotely on the same page. But I think more than anything, it was just evaluating in those first couple dates. Like I feel like it's there's no harm in asking if someone's looking for a long-term relationship. I don't think again you're going to scare away the right person, but it's also like, do you have the right relationship? Like to me it's almost like it doesn't matter if they're looking for a long-term relationship as much as is this actually what's right for me. So, of course you need to be aligned, but I think over the first couple of days I learned that my partner wanted marriage in the near future, wanted to start a family, and these were all things we just had in discussion.
mhm.
And I didn't really know what I was looking for. And like we talked about, Robin, when we were doing your show, I had just come out of a 5-year relationship that ended due to infidelity. And I was kind of starting over with thinking about what I wanted in love. And when my current partner reappeared in my life, someone who's been in my life for a long time, and we started having these discussions, I suggested that we take a month to do so. So we had a 1-month trial relationship.
Oh,
And in that month,
I love that.
we shared our vision for what a relationship could look like. And it took us a month to build that because he's someone that came out of a marriage and has 2 kids, grown kids, and I had never been married, never had kids. So it was a very collaborative effort for that month to see if this could even be a possibility. And I'm so glad we did that because there's no way we could have figured that out from day one and say, yeah, let's go with this vision. Yeah. No, it took a lot of iterating.
Right. Oh my gosh, I really like that. Something that I've done with my partner too is like just not that we're having in the beginning it was like I think we both on the first date I just said I want to have like a long like a deep long lasting partnership. So I was very open about that. And it's like over time it's figuring out how our lives can come together, right? Because we're both parents. We both like, it's just, it's like mixing families. It's not easy. So and something you talk about in the book, I can't remember the term, but it's like regular check-ins,
Mhm.
right? Which I think is so smart. It's like every 3 months. What do you call it in the book, please, Julie and Yue? Um,
Do we have
I
a
think I
term for
think we're
it?
just calling them
maybe it is
relationship
regular
check-ins. Yeah.
check-ins.
Check-in.
Whether it's
I was
like
like, we
every
should have
three
a
months
little more witty
Well,
name for them, but I like it.
when you're first dating, or even like in your relationship, right? It's like every 3 months. Why not have a check-in? How are you feeling? Are things
Yeah.
going the way that Are we both on the same page here? How can we adapt? Are you still feeling good about this? Like sometimes you don't actually know your shared common goal until you really see if this can really work. Give it time.
I think relationship check-ins, no matter what stage they are at, and they can have different levels of, consciousness, I guess. Like I sit every week on the couch with my partner, and it's one of our favorite times of the week. Every Wednesday, we do our relationship check in. It's an opportunity to just check in with each other in our daily lives,
Yeah,
but also, are there any relational growing edges? I took this script from Dr. Alexandra Solomon, so I'll give
relational
her
growing
credit. If
edges.
anyone,
Yep.
she does an amazing relationship check in for anyone that needs it, but we swear by it because it brings to surface things, and you also get to acknowledge and, compliment your partner too.
I love that. Something in the chat said, I think marriages should be a subscription service that you can choose to renew
Yes.
too. Yeah, I like that.
Heather, you get it. Heather gets it.
Is there such a thing as being too picky, or am I just honoring my standards?
Ooh, we love this question.
This is the
There's
question
that.
we get all the time.
I'm sure you do.
I mean, there's definitely a difference of being picky and having standards. I don't think that
Yeah.
anyone is saying that you should not have standards. You absolutely should have standards in the way you're treated, in the way that you give yourself to another human being. I think where pickiness happens is when we have this checklist that we feel like we've envisioned this perfect partner, and it's all based on qualities. And it's almost like you're coming down and being like, you're not good enough if you don't have X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And that to me is where pickiness becomes off-putting, opposed to having standards of the way you're being treated. When you're, I don't know, like instead of respecting and acknowledging where someone else is coming from, judging them. So I think when it's in the judgmental way, that's picky. But again, if someone is not showing up the way you want them to and being the right partner for you, then you absolutely should have a standard and say, this is not for me.
You talk about that in your book actually, and I there's a clear difference when you're coming at it from judgment, and it's really unkind
Yeah.
actually. It's you're not being your best self if you're like, you're picking apart the other individual, going like they're not this, they're not like, it's just like, well, would you want people to look at you that way? Because that's not,
No. Yeah.
no, that's not from a high standard.
You're right.
Right.
Yeah, that comes from pettiness, that comes from this immaturity, that feeling like, oh, if you can judge other people, then it must mean that you are of a higher standard than them, which is not true, like you were saying, Robin. And also, what comes with pickiness is the standards you're judging someone on aren't rooted in reality. A lot of times, they're very superficial standards, or they're standards that you can't even live up to. And
Yeah.
I have a prime
Yes.
example of my ex's best friend, always said he was so picky. He's single. He can't find a woman because he's so picky, because he needs a woman with a thigh gap. And I said back to him, like, if you think that's picky, where's your thigh gap? Like, is
Yes.
that really a standard? First of all, where's your thigh gap? And second of all, does a thigh gap actually equate to a good partner? Is that a realistic metric for a good partner? And that's not being in the right way of being picky. That's actually just being very unrealistic and judgmental.
I right now, if I'm thinking about all the women that I'm friends with and like who I know, I don't even know anybody that's got a thigh gap. I'm like, really? And like, I'm like,
Not
well, we don't live
natural.
in LA. I don't know. Like,
It's
I
And
don't
you
know.
won't in 10
it's not
years
natural.
anyways, that's for
That is
sure.
so ridiculous. So ridiculous. I don't even want to know that person. Just kidding. I don't know. All right.
Yeah, my friend's
Um,
12-year-old has a
yeah,
Yeah.
thigh gap because
exactly.
she
A
hasn't gone through
child, a
puberty
child.
yet.
Oh, this is good because you talk this question around vulnerability. You talk a lot about it in
Mhm.
this in the book. I really love it. I struggle with vulnerability. How could I let someone in without feeling exposed too quickly? Really good
I think
question.
Yeah, that is a good question. And I think vulnerability is a buzzword up there with emotional
It is.
availability. And it's like, how do we define what that actually is? Like, Brene Brown actually defines it really simply. And like, I feel like it's been convoluted throughout, you know, the way it's been normalized in society. I think a big piece is that people feel like they have to like bare their soul and trauma dump and tell all. And really, what she says is like putting yourself out there in any way. So in dating, that could be like telling someone you had a good time, telling them that you're
Yeah.
nerve sighted on the date, that you're a little nervous, but you're also excited to be here, sharing your internal monologue a bit more, or asking for advice. That's vulnerable. I think we need to get away from these like big grand gestures of telling my whole life story on the first date because no one wants to be in a therapy session on a first date.
Right.
Unless you're getting paid $250 an hour over
Yeah.
Venmo, after, I don't want to sit and listen to that. That is not a connection point. And I think that's where vulnerability gets lost, is when it's a bid for connection, but it's actually the opposite of disconnection.
It's oversharing, right? And if you're showing
Yeah,
up on a date, I love the tips that you share. It's like you're showing up on a date, it's like, what's going on in your life right now? For
Right.
real. Like
Right. Being
you can be your
real.
authentic, positive self, like just looking at, what are the really, grateful and good, all that. And also be like, oh my gosh, like you give example of somebody whose dog just died, and that's real stuff. The person's dog had just died the day before, and the man that she was dating like completely went over.
yeah,
He didn't even he didn't hear what she had just said, because that's real information you probably want to share with the person you're dating, because life happens, right?
Yeah.
He didn't hear, and he just said something like oh, and he asked the next question, and it's just like, holy shit, she was so vulnerable telling him about her dog dying, and then he missed it. But that's being vulnerable and just real,
Mhm.
right?
the
So for
majority
example,
of relationships spend their time talking about their day,
yes,
but the majority of daters spend their time talking about the past or talking about their
good point.
credentials. So why are we sharing things that really don't matter in a relationship? And I think this person's question probably comes from feeling exposed by these dates where you're talking about childhood traumas and why you're in therapy and these really big challenges
Yes,
that is just part of the human experience that can't be resolved, in one sitting, and it can't be resolved even in a lifetime. We're all sitting with this. But what is important in this vulnerability is how can you share about your day in a way that feels connected? The temperature check or the relationship checks that you both have talked about, why don't we do that on dates? Why do we just go straight into date and it's like, great, what are we ordering? Let's get you a drink, and then let's like go straight into our childhood traumas. How about what, what is
exactly.
what is something frustrating for you that happened
Yeah,
today? Start there. What is a win that was for you today? What are you most excited about for this week? Do that temperature check. Probably just that's the vulnerability that actually translates into a relationship.
I really, I really, really like that. I love that. It's just, and the questions, like there's like four or five top questions that people ask on dates. Just like, stay away from that, right? It's like one of the ones is like, tell me about your past relationship. Why did it break up? It's like, I've only known you for 5 minutes. I don't need
Right.
to talk to you about my marriage that I'm like no longer in. Like, holy shit, man! Like, tell me more. Like you just like, let's keep a little bit like more like getting to know somebody on the lighter. Like, we don't need to go, like you said, into past marriage, past relationship, or trauma, childhood. No,
I mean,
no.
I'll get vulnerable for a little because when I was dating after doing this podcast, I was that person that did the therapy date. Like, I was like
Yeah.
asking people all these questions or revealing a lot. And I thought, and I think a lot of people think
Yeah.
this, is that that's how you form connection. That's what you're supposed to do. And it's deep and it's interesting. And it's not that it's not, but what I learned is like there is a time for that as the trust grows with someone.
Right.
The time
Trust
is
is
not
earned.
always the first
Yes.
date. And when I started having a more light approach to dates, like when I met my partner, we did not talk about our childhood or any like challenges or trauma that we had been going through. We kept it pretty light, like I was meeting a new friend. And it came, like that stuff revealed itself. It's not like you'll never get an opportunity to ever talk
Yes.
about the deep stuff.
I really, really like that. So, what green flags should I look for in the early stages of dating? This is a
Mm,
good question because you talk about in the book on how it's like we're way too focused on red flags, or
yeah,
maybe we're overlooking them. I can't remember.
No,
both.
we're too focused. We call
We're on
the
the wrong red flag. Yeah.
yeah, it's called the red flag hunt
Yeah.
because you're
We're looking
just looking for
for them. Yeah.
yeah. The biggest green flag we talk about
Mhm.
in the book is consistency.
Yeah.
And it's the often overlooked green flag because it's boring. When someone's consistent, yeah, there is no drama, they're not bringing up anxiety for you. For a lot of people, that feels boring because it's not what they're used to. But consistency in the way that they treat you, consistency in the way they reciprocate, in consistency in their communication is a huge indicator of someone who will remain a consistent partner as well.
I
Oh,
mean,
yes.
I feel like that's what lets the relationship build too, when the consistency is there, because you're not thinking about like, oh, are they going to text me again? Are we going to go out with them again? It's more about like, oh, let's just build our connection and enjoy each other.
Yeah.
I think the other main one too is accountability. Like if someone, is late and you call them out on it, do they own it or do they deflect and make up
Right.
excuses? Because I think accountability is something in marriage and committed partnerships that can really make the whole foundation crumble if it's not there. You need two people that are really showing up consistently and taking that accountability.
And something that you remind us as the reader is being those things ourselves,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you being consistent with how you're showing up to your dates, and are you being accountable? Like you share a story in the book around this man. I think he had gone on like 100, maybe 1,000 dates, and he was going from date to date, and actually he was overbooked, and he canceled the date right with one girl with the next girl, and she called him out, right, and said right away, like I don't know why I thank you for letting me know you can't make it. Okay, that was a little bit considerate, but why are you canceling? And if it's because you don't want to meet me, then that's fine, but I've invested in
Yep.
this and I was excited for this date. She kind of just being completely, upfront and honest, and holding him accountable, and
Mm-hmm.
also being just honest with where she was at. I thought that was just such a beautiful example. And then he was looking at himself going like, ooh, that wasn't cool. What I did wasn't, and I wasn't taking accountability. And he shifted his ways after that. So it was a great,
Can
yeah.
we
Well,
leave your audience with a little Easter egg?
Yeah.
Because, with all in our book, we have consolidated stories. So, we've talked to thousands of daters. We're not going to like call someone out. But that story verbatim was actually happened to Yue. And Yue got called out by the guy. And that was the text he sent. And you had a reality check. You were like, this is not how I want to show up.
and
Wow.
I think that the
Yeah.
calling out is such an interesting term because I think if you're not ready for that accountability, you would feel called out. Like,
Yeah.
oh, wow, this person really like made me feel bad. But if you're ready for the conversation, you actually take that as a gift. You
Right.
because by someone saying this to you, it means that they thought you were better. They thought you were a much better person than your actions. So they actually have higher standards for you than you had for yourself. Basically, they're saying, I think you can do better. What a gift for someone to give that to you. So
Yes.
that maybe you don't feel called out. Maybe you feel like, oh, shoot, I can do much better. Thank you for helping me
Yeah.
recognize that.
Yeah.
Called in. I
I
love
called
that statement.
in. I like that. And, I think that goes back to what we said about higher standards versus being picky.
Yeah.
It's like I have high standards for myself. I have high standards for my partner, and just people in my life. And so it's like if I am not acting that way, please let me know so that
Right.
I can, right, because I'm holding myself to high standards and other people. So it's like how are we, and you're doing each other a favor if you're able to bring that in. It's a gift. I do look at it that way too. Okay, what's the difference between, oh, we already talked about that, sorry. How do I stop comparing new people I date to someone from my
Ooh.
past? Yeah.
Ooh. Oh my God. We've all struggled with this one. I think, first of all, that could be a sign too that maybe you're not fully there, that there is a little more healing to do
Mm,
too. Because I think once you get to the place that you're like, I just want to meet someone new that's right for me, your ex is a little more distant or someone in the past. So that's step one, is maybe checking in on why this stuff is coming up. The other piece too is recognizing that early stages is going to be different with someone. You might not be like spending every weekend together like you were with your ex or past partner because you were in a long term committed relationship. So it's understanding different stages and not comparing, but like seeing, is this person bringing out a good side in me? Do I feel good with them? Like, how do you get it out of like a comparison mode between the two people and more a focus on you in this new relationship?
Really
Yeah, that's
like that.
exactly it. Compare the feelings, not the person.
Yeah. And just remembering that we're all so different.
Yeah.
They're not going to be like your ex.
That's a
And
good
like, and
thing.
that's a good
Yeah.
thing. That's a good thing. We want to like, we're just so, and just being in that more that curiosity mindset and getting to know this person, right? Instead of comparing them. Yeah. Okay. Well, what questions? Let's talk about like just some questions. Like I know you don't want to go in with a script, right? But what questions can help me really get to know someone's character, not just their interests?
I love the question of like, describe your best friend or best friends to me, because it
Oh
one shows that
yeah.
they have friends.
Yeah.
And then two, who someone surrounds themselves with is exactly how they would describe who they are. So the way they describe their friends is probably going to be a more precise description of them than they would actually tell you of themselves. So yeah, tell me about your best friend or best friends.
I also like to hear what makes them come alive, like whether it's something that they've learned, new, like recent skill, or being around certain people, like their niece and nephews, or whoever it might be. I think just hearing someone excited about life would give me a good, like, I don't know, look into what lights them up.
I really
Yeah.
I really like that. Tell me like or just like tell me like what have you taken a course lately or is like or there a dream in your future? I mean just like seeing where people are at
Yeah.
in their interests. What sparks them? Yeah,
Yeah.
And it could be natural and organic. I think the more we can just get away from the data view where we're asking people
Yes.
question after question and just leaving it in naturally and leaving that room for that natural connection. Like we hear people that are going to dates with a list of questions because they're nervous or because they want to find things out. We say bring one question if things get awkward that you can like then start a new convo with, but more importantly is listening to where the conversation is going and reacting. The reality is that the most popular person ends up being the best listener. And that's
that's
really
right.
what draws you to someone beyond just asking good questions.
Yeah. Being a great listener, that's so important. So tell us about your you've got a dating archetype quiz on your website. I think everybody should be taking that,
Yes.
right? So they can go to dateable.com and take their dating archetype quiz.
Yep.
Dateablepodcast.com or how to be dateable. Still don't have the domain for dateable.com yet, but hopefully soon. So
Yeah,
they can go there and yeah, it's a free quiz. Anyone can take it and you'll learn about your archetype. One of the things when we were writing this book, we realized that like we talked to thousands of daters and not all of them were the same. And that's a good thing, again. And what makes someone dateable is different than what makes another person dateable. And what someone's strength is in dating in a relationship is different than someone else's. And that's where this generic advice that we're seeing all over the internet can be really detrimental because it's not customized to you. So we have this quiz that you could take to understand your dating strengths and how you approach dating, your mindset around dating, behaviors, and what might actually be holding you back. And from this information, we really think that is a better lens to take advice and listen to stories and figure out what the path forward because it's again custom to you.
yeah.
So
Well,
one example of a dating archetype is a maverick, which is what I am, uber independent, very much a strong sense of self. And what gets in my way in relationships is that I have a hard time being vulnerable, like we were just talking about, and exposing parts of myself because I think it's exposing weakness. And it's harder for me to think in a we versus I'm just a me because I'm just so strong in my own identity. And that's something I will be working on for a lifetime.
We all have our like our just ways that we navigate through the world. And I think in dating we kind of set it into these patterns. And you're just once you're aware of it, it's just figuring out how you can break up with some of these bad dating habits and beliefs that are getting in your way, right? I think it's just like we talked about on the podcast. It's like we're like almost in overwhelm and overthinking it. And I think it's getting back to the basics on just hopefully getting back to dating with enjoyment, right? And I think you've just got so much in your book. I hope that everybody reads this book, honestly, How to Be Dateable. It's fantastic. And I got so much out of it. And thank you both so much for being with me today.
Thank you
Thank you so much,
for
Rob.
having us, Robin.
Thank you. Take care, everybody. Bye.